Hey, I'm Dan DeLuca, music critic for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and we are here at Range Recording Studios in Ardmore with a war on drugs. These four gentlemen right here, who are Robbie, Adam, Dave, and Stephen Ergo on drums, right?
Yep.
They've released a record called Slave Ambient, which is one of the best records of 2011, I can say with some confidence. And we'll be talking about that a little bit. This record right here is not that record, but it looks a lot like it. It has some similar artwork.
Similar, yeah.
That Adam is responsible for. We can talk about it a little bit. This is the Future Weather EP that came out last year. Let's talk about Slave Ambient. That is a record you worked on for a long time.
Yeah, about 3 years.
Yeah.
3.5 years.
Right.
4 years.
What's the song that is really the epic one that you worked on the longest?
I would say You Love Is Calling My Name took the longest.
Right.
It's kind of a song constructed from like a lot of samples from a lot of home recorded stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have friends come over and two drummers play at once,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd just like do whatever. It was like no direction, and then record it all, and then maybe go back for a couple days and like listen and like sample parts of it.
Right. Right, and you're sampling, you're recording the two drums and guitars.
Two drums, yeah. And then
right.
with like 4 mics on it, and then maybe like dubbing it out, and then like coming up with this like really cool like shuffle beat. And it's really just for all the songs, I guess the easiest way to say is just it goes through a lot of like building it up and then taking it back down, and then like taking it into an entirely new direction.
Right.
And I think part of that has to do with either just kind of waiting until it feels like something special, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And a song like that, there was an older arrangement of it that I worked on for a long time. It sounded cool, it just didn't really do much for me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of over time, I'd get attached to little parts of it and just keep those parts. And so kind of as you build it over time, like all the little parts that you really like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then finally towards the end being the last year, I guess it was like, kind of saw like a different direction, and that's kind of where it ended up going.
And you know when it's done, when you know it's done. So
yeah, I guess you know when it's like close or when it's in the right area.
And how does the lyric writing process fit in with that?
Same kind of thing, just kind of done over the course of time. So normally as like the song's being worked on, I'll always just do a bunch of scratch vocals and improvised vocals just to kind of put some vocals on there.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times the improvised ones are the ones that I ended up either keeping the take of or keeping like the feel of the words, you know, and kind of going in. So it's really like a year's worth of like kind of writing around experience or something,
Mm-hmm.
having already put vocals on. And by the time, you know, at the end when you're kind of finishing the song and you do a real vocal, you've kind of already done it so many times before.
Right. But you might move lyrics around from song to song.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes 5 songs becomes 1 song.
Right. And the record really holds together as like one, sweet. Sweet isn't really the word, but like one piece of work.
Sweet.
It is sweet, but not necessarily in an SUITE way.
Right.
But still, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're interconnected. It's 46 minutes it feels of a piece.
Right.
Sort of.
Yeah.
And that's like, are you working towards that sort of? That's,
in a way, yeah.
That's
I mean,
the kind
it's
of music
not like
you want to listen
goal.
to.
Yeah, it's not the goal to make like a concept thing, but I think definitely like each song is important, so you just try to work on each song too and make it as good as you can. But I think that also the way we did it, in the sense that I never had something that I started 2 years ago. It was never like finished and mixed and ready to go. You know, it's kind of like everything was worked on in various places, and then the last like 6-8 months is when we put it all together. So like, there's stuff on a super old song that's also on a new song, like tone-wise, And when you do it like that, things start to become interconnected, because you're just working on, instead of working on one song, mixing it, working on the next one, it's like you're working on 12 or 15 songs all at once.
Right.
And so you do something on one, you're like, oh, it's awesome, let's put that we should put that on that other song. It's a great tone, you know, a great organ tone. So then like slowly things start to get interconnected by like just sounds and just like I think just the atmosphere on doing it.
Right. And you studied visual art a little bit,
A
right?
little bit, yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you still take photos and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. I mean,
On my
like
iPhone,
this.
with
On your
Instagram.
iPhone, yeah.
With Instagram.
Yeah, isn't this was taken with some sort of old...
That's with a Holga, yeah, like
Right.
a medium, 120 size.
Right.
But the it doesn't advance properly, and so I didn't know that. So I took all these rolls in Europe over the last couple of years, and I got it developed, and that was just one frame. So it's really like I guess 10, 15 shots on top of each other with a bunch of light leaks.
Right.
And it came out. I mean, that's the way it was, just on the negative. It's pretty crazy.
Right.
And then same with the Slave Ambient cover, was just a shot. We played a festival in Zaragoza, Spain, and then just the blue and the yellow and the pinks across the middle were just like light leaks.
How does like the way you thought about visual art, you know, and visual artists that you love, like how does that relate to, I don't know, sculpting sound, making music, putting together?
I think there's a painter I used to be really into, Richard Dievenkorn. He was like mostly active. Well, he was active all the way through the 80s, I guess, but 50s and 60s, like a Bay Area kind of figurative abstract painter. And his whole thing was like huge washes of color.
Right.
Big blocks of color. But it was never really abstract. It was super figurative. So it'd be like a lady in a chair is actually one of my favorite ones. But it wasn't like classically painted, you know?
Right.
But it's like these really kind of abstract way of approaching something, but then there's still something there, something real. And I think in a way that's kind of similar approach to music.
Right.
You know, just kind of like also not, you know, a lot of the songs, like, I don't really know where they're going until maybe halfway through. You're just kind of starting with like colors or something. And then
it's as much about feel as something concrete.
Yeah.
Right. So, and now the way people talk about the war on drugs in shorthand musically often, you know, in rock critic speak, you know, is about a Dylan-y thing, sort of, right? And an ambient thing. Yeah. You know, and that, so in that regard, like Dylan is the more concrete, yes, kind of?
I guess,
Yeah. And that's fair. Is that? Do you feel like that's representative of what you do? And you know, the sort of like there's drony meets Dylan-y, or is that like an oversimplification?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably a little oversimplified because maybe the other guys would have a better idea about that. I mean, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's like songwriting and production for me. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Obviously, I like Bob Dylan.
Right.
You know, it's pretty obvious.
But
it's not like, you know, where this meets that. You know, I mean,
sure.
it's like,
Sure. It's not a formula, but
no, I mean, the music's real personal, and like it's just like kind of like in the same way that like, you know, you can't, like, you talk to a great painter or a great abstract painter, like talk to Jackson Pollock or something, and he was able to paint figuratively too. It's like you can only move out of the box once you've mastered the box, you know. And I'm not saying I mastered, but I'm just saying that like you have to also have like a level of proficiency to kind of also take it.
Right.
So it's not
like
as easy.
Picasso could draw.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as easy as like just like
Right.
writing a poem and putting a bunch of tones behind it. You know, it's a little more, you know. And I think people understand that. But I mean, yeah, I mean,
people just need to put things in terms that they understand. And that's what it is. You know, because like you can't just the way people get into bands is they recommend them to their friends, but then to get them to listen to them, they say it's like this, but like this.
Yeah.
But I don't think it just seems, whenever I hear that stuff, it just seems foreign to me because you never ever think about it in those terms when you're inside of it. You know? You're never like, oh man, we'll do this one section that's like, it'll be like My Bloody Valentine, but then we'll do like the Springsteen thing on top of it. Just don't do that ever.
Right. Then we'll add like some Dylan harmonica rack thing at the end.
Just don't ever try not to. I mean, I think you probably try not to think about that stuff ever. If
Right.
You can help it.
Right.
It's just it sort of pollutes the process. But
The War on Drugs, you typically do not. The chords don't change that much.
Sometimes
Sometimes
there's one
they
song
do.
actually that has more chord changes than any other song ever written.
Yeah. Which song is that?
Pushing Corn.
Mm-hmm.
But after I wrote Pushing Corn, I decided that I'd had enough of chord changes.
Right.
But no, I mean songs change. Like they change, like the chords. Sometimes they don't, but for the most part, they change. They just don't go to any sort of like.
Yeah, like incredible big, like melodic,
Right, or like a breakdown.
super sugary payoff. Yeah.
I mean, I think in the
Yeah.
future though, like,
Yeah.
I'd hate to have every War on Drugs album sound the same. So
Right.
it'd be nice to approach the writing of the next one in a little bit of a different way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because this one was definitely more of like a piecemeal thing, and also doing it mostly on analog tape. It's like I can't really rearrange a song as easily, you know.
Mhm.
So if I put something down, like a drum machine or something for 11 minutes, it's kind of the way it's gonna be,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So it's
But you like that process as
yeah,
you're doing it.
for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could really go through that process again though,
Uh-huh.
and make a record like we did this one. But
Right.
I think that a lot of
It's
the
a long gestation period.
yeah, I
sort of,
think a
yeah.
lot of the ways in which this one, a lot of the things we did on this will definitely be, you know, applied to future recordings, but in the way of and how this one was kind of conceived and put together and executed. I mean, it wouldn't. It's not a self-sustaining business plan. I think.
Right.
They say.
Right. All right. Well, great. So yeah, December 17th, Union Transfer, Slave Ambient. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And the War on Drugs. Here they are. Without further ado, they're gonna play some music.
Yeah. Thanks,
All right.
Dan.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Let's do it.